the person Bhagavata, or it also could mean the book Bhagavata, which we are studying every day here. Okay, Bhagavati. Yes, or here it corresponds to personality of Godhead, Bhagavan. It's related to Bhagavan, Bhagavati. Uttama Shloke. Yes, top hits of the world. Yes, yes. Shloka means verses or songs. Uttama Shloka means the best songs. Exactly, top 10 of all time. Okay, Bhaktir. What does Bhakti mean? Oh, love. Yes, other words which correspond to Bhakti. Practice, what is here? Exactly, loving service. That's what is translated here. It's loving service. Bhavati means happens, or here we have it as takes place, right? Or is established. Bhavati, it happens. Nashtiki, what is anyone remember a devotee who has a similar name? Used to stay here. Yes, Carly? Steven. Yeah, sure. Steve. Okay, that's what it is. I wanted someone's name. Okay, Nishtha, which means, what does Nishtha's name mean? Steadiness, which is translated here as established completely, like, okay, not exactly, but as an irrevocable fact, like it doesn't change, like it's a fact. So that's Nishtha, that's steadiness. Okay, that was a quick word-to-word translation. Now we can go look at the purport. Does anyone remember what we studied on Friday from when Gopi gave class? Any points that you remember from Friday? Steven, are you going to say something? No.
Of devotional service as described by Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur.
That's nice. We're also going to talk about it today. Thank you. Advaita Prabhu? Okay, cool. So there was a similar theme in verse 17, just the verse before this, which was when you hear regularly about Krishna's service, Krishna's pastimes and his associates, that destroys what is troublesome to the heart. So again, we're talking about kind of the same thing here. So it must mean that it's really important, right? Like if it is being emphasized again, just the next verse, that must mean that it's really helpful for us. Okay, so we all know this translation. Let's read this again. By regular attendance in classes on Bhagavatam, by rendering of service to the pure devotee, that is troublesome to the heart is almost completely destroyed. Loving service unto the personality of Godhead is praised with transcendental songs established as an irrevocable fact. So what is really relevant here is the part about what is troublesome to our heart. Because we all have some things which is troubling our hearts, right? A few verses before, maybe in the first chapter, we were reading a verse which talked about all the disqualifications of people in Kali Yuga. Does anyone remember any of those qualities? Madness, yeah.
Disturbed.
Yeah, that's a conclusion of, yeah, they're always disturbed. Lazy. Bruce?
Unlucky.
They're unlucky, unfortunate. Short lifespan. Exactly. So all these things we already like. It's naturally as Kali Yuga people we have this. But what more qualities trouble our heart? So that is what we're going to talk about here as abhadreshu, that which is inauspicious to our heart. And okay, so let's read the purport, what Prabhupada says. Does anyone like to read? Gopi? Bruce?
Here is the remedy for eliminating all inauspicious things within the heart, which are considered to be obstacles in the path of self-realization. The remedy is association of the Bhagavatas. There are two types of Bhagavatas, namely the book Bhagavata and the devotee Bhagavata. Both the Bhagavatas are competent remedies, and both of them are either of them can be good enough to eliminate the obstacles. The devotee Bhagavata is as good as the book Bhagavata because the devotee Bhagavata leads his life in terms of the book Bhagavata. And the book Bhagavata is full of information about the personality of Godhead and his pure devotees, who are also Bhagavatas. Bhagavata book and person are identical. Bruce?
The devotee Bhagavata is a direct representative of Bhagavan, the personality of Godhead. So by pleasing the devotee Bhagavata, one can receive the benefit of the book Bhagavata. Human reason fails to understand how by serving the devotee Bhagavata or the book Bhagavata, one gets gradual promotion on the path of devotion. But actually, these are facts explained by Srila Naradadev, who happened to be a maidservant's son in his previous life. The maidservant was engaged in the menial service of the sages, and thus he also came into contact with them. And simply by associating with them and accepting the remnants of foodstuff left by the sages, the son of the maidservant got the chance to become the great devotee and personality Srila Naradadev. These are the miraculous effects of the association of Bhagavatas. And to understand these effects practically, it should be noted that by such sincere association of the Bhagavatas, one is sure to receive transcendental knowledge very easily, with the result that he becomes fixed in devotional service of the Lord. The more progress is made in devotional service under the guidance of the Bhagavatas, the more one becomes fixed in the transcendental loving service of the Lord. The messages of the book Bhagavata, therefore, have to be received from the devotee Bhagavata. And the combination of these two Bhagavatas will help the neophyte devotee to make progress on and on.
We're also supposed to cover the next verse. So we look at translation for that one. Let's read this together. As soon as irrevocable loving service is established in the heart, the effects of nature's modes of passion and ignorance, lust, desire, and hankering disappear from the heart. The devotee is established in goodness. He becomes completely happy. So, yes, we'll read the purport. So this is continuing again from the previous verse. So when we regularly attend the classes on Bhagavatam, what happens? Loving service is established as an irrevocable fact. And when that happens, what is the next step? Relief. And all these different qualities that is, again, troubling our heart, they completely disappear. So if you notice the previous verse, it said it almost completely disappears. Like it takes you to a certain stage. But then when that devotional service is established as an irrevocable fact and the devotee continues to progress, we heard about the 9 stages of devotional service. As the devotee continues to progress, Krishna helps remove all the remaining qualities, like the bad qualities that could be present in the heart. And thus the devotee becomes completely happy. It's okay, we don't, we're not going to read the purport. But I wanted to start by talking about, has anyone heard this word anartha? Stephen and everyone else is nodding along. John also. Snake. Okay, everyone has heard of this word anartha. So this means in Sanskrit, when we heard this word abhadra, when a prefix of is added in front of someone, it's kind of negating the meaning of that word. So abhadra means not auspicious, and anartha means not of artha. And what does artha mean? Something of value, something which gives us something. Like in the most general sense, people like in India, they use this word artha in like everyday language, and it means money, because that's the most valuable thing to everyone like around us. But here in a transcendental sense, what is artha? What are we looking for? What is something that is valuable? Good qualities, exactly. So anartha means the bad qualities which stop us from having the highest thing that we're looking for. It's described in Chaitanya Charitamrita. The highest goal of human life is to achieve love of Krishna. Prema Pamartha Mahan. That's the Parama Artha, the highest Artha. And everything that is stopping us from achieving that highest Artha is Anartha. I'm sure, like we talked about on Friday, Gopal must have elaborated that there's a stage called Anartha Nivriti, which means the stage where we're clearing out all the qualities that are troubling us. And it is described that it's actually the longest stage like that one goes through on this path of devotional service. We start with, does anyone remember what is the first stage of bhakti? Shraddha. We start with faith. We all had some faith by coming here to Krishna house or by meeting devotees outside that there's something good here that I'm not getting in the outside world, and maybe there's something of value and I should go check it out. And because we had that faith, what did we do? Second stage, sadhu sangha. We came here and we hung out with the devotees. We started coming to Tuesday program, Friday program, or wherever we were in South Africa. We went to the programs there. And so we had sadhu sangha there. And so what did that inspire us to do? First stage of devotional service. Bhajana Kriya, exactly. We started doing some sadhana ourselves. We, being inspired from the devotees, we started chanting. We started reading a little bit, coming to morning classes. We started doing Bhajana Kriya, which means we started some sort of worship. And then the fourth stage is unearth and everything. It is on top of all this. That's very good. So when we're starting a practice, we should think that now at least I'm on the third stage. Like, we should keep moving forward. But then comes the stage of unearth and everything. And it feels like this goes on forever. Yeah, good point, Advaita Prabhu. Like, if we want to achieve something really valuable, we have to put in work. Like, first three stages seem to come like really in quick succession. Like, we have some faith. For some people, it takes a long time to go from faith to ultimately like executing Vajana Kriya or devotional service. But for most of us, like when we have that initial faith, we kind of go through those stages a little quickly. But when the stage of Anartha Nivriti comes, then we start wondering, like, is this process actually working? Like it says also in Bhagavad Gita that what is that verse? Yayatma suprasidati. That's different. Susukam kartam ave. Like devotional service is how does that verse start? Does anyone remember? Pavitram idamuktamam pratyaga va gamam dharmem susukam kartam ave. That this devotional service is to be performed with a lot of satisfaction. But you see, when we're going through this stage of Ananta Nivriti, that we don't always feel satisfied. We doubt ourselves, we doubt people around us. We started like, ashram life is said to be like when a lot of different stones are there rubbing off against each other and we're trying to get smooth in the process. But then we actually start doubting, is the process actually working? And me rubbing off against each other, like us rubbing off against each other, is that actually good for me? Then we start thinking like, maybe if we keep like going through this, maybe we'll offend some devotees. It's best we go away from the devotees. And I personally remember I had this feeling when certain anarthas would come up that I am so impure that I don't think like I should hang around the devotees much. Like even while I was at Krishna house, there's one quality that was troubling me a lot. And whenever that would come up, I would feel like I just want to shut myself in the room. And I would just go to like my college, like I have some space there that I would spend all day there. I feel like maybe it's best I don't hang around the devotees so much. But then in the evening when I would come and then I would have to hang out with everyone else. We would have kirtan nights. This is during COVID when I really felt this coming up. We had kirtan nights every evening. And then naturally people asked me to come play mridanga, like just be in the kirtan with them. But then I would feel like my desire of not being with devotees, my guilt, is it really worth it? Like the satisfaction I'm getting from actually being in devotional service, like, or just like having kirtan, like we all enjoy music. And so being in kirtan and singing with my friends and joking around with them, is that more valuable to me, or is my guilt, which is like, obviously guilt is not valuable in that case, but which is more valuable? The pleasure I'm getting from being around the devotees, naturally that is valuable. So what it prompted me to do is to speak to a mentor about how I could actually overcome these like anarthas, this particular anartha that I was facing, and like how could I like deal with it better so that I don't feel like I should, like if all the way I'm coming from India, I'm coming to Gainesville to do my school and to be in an ashram, and then here I feel like I want to be away from devotees, that means there's something like wrong that I need to reflect upon. So that was the best thing I did. I spoke about it very honestly to my mentor and also to my ashram leader back then and a friend Ananta. And us sharing, like he also shared what troubled him and I shared what troubled me. And then I realized that I'm not the only one who's facing through this. Like many people like my age and in a similar situation also go through this. So I don't need to feel like I have to do this alone. And if I cannot do this alone, it's better I fail instead of like trying to continue. So yeah, that is what anartha stage can do to us. I'm sure like have we felt that at some stage or other? Like this is what happens is sometimes we feel we are better when we're in material life. Like we had some qualities, we had some good qualities, we had some bad qualities, but maybe after coming to devotional service, the bad qualities seem to come up more often. Like we seem to get annoyed more often. We seem to like have criticizing mentality more often. What are some other like qualities that trouble us? Like yeah, lust, greed, anger. These are the prominent ones. Jonathan,
Oh, maybe feeling uninspired.
uninspired.
Or like lost, like less devotion.
Exactly. Maybe when we're out there in the material world, we didn't think like that so much. Some people we did think like that, but we also felt like this is what the world has to give us. We have to get a career, you have to get education, you got to get a family. But then after coming to devotional life, we feel like, what's the point if I'm feeling so much trouble? So there's this analogy that is given that so chanting or taking the devotional service is considered as cleaning of the heart. Has anyone heard that analogy? It's said in like Sikshashtakam, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu says, this chanting of the holy name cleanses all the dirt that is there in our heart. So imagine you have a room in which you haven't like stayed in for many days, let's say many years. Of course, there's a lot of dust that must have accumulated on everything, right? On the surfaces, on the floor, there might be roaches, and this just reminds me of when Mahatma Prabhu, when he was not here, he was traveling, and he came back. Every time he would come back, he would say that there's a lot of insects in his office room, and they would have poop, like they would have pooped everywhere. So he would always tell his disciples to come, like, help clean him up, and I helped in one case. So that's what happens when we don't use something, when we don't look into our heart, we don't reflect of what's like good or bad in us, and we just keep going through the motions. We don't even realize like what's wrong. But when we start pondering upon like what qualities I have, when we start cleaning the heart, then we start realizing that it's actually dirty. Like the reason we didn't even notice it was dirty before is that we never looked into it. We never looked at the mirror inside. So now, okay, we are in the room and we're starting to clean. Let's say we have closed all the doors and windows and we're just starting to clean. So what happens? All the dust, yeah, rises up. And it's even more prominent than when we're just in the room, but it's on the surfaces. But when we're cleaning, it's more prominent again. It's all around us. It feels like it's suffocating and we want to give it up because just going outside will feel better. But let's say we have a purpose of actually cleaning the room. Let's say we're really motivated that I want to have a clean heart, or I want to have a clean room, or I'm prepping it for someone that I really appreciate and I really love, and they're coming to stay there. So if we have that purpose and we keep on continuing like with cleaning the room, finally when we open the room and let's say we turn the fan on, what happens? All the dust goes out. Like whatever, like this verse, previous verse said it's almost completely destroyed. Let's say most of the dirt goes out. Let's say 75% of the dirt of the dust goes out. What do we feel then? What's the feeling that we have then?
Refresh.
Relief. Exactly, refresh. That's what this verse is talking about. When these qualities, the bad qualities that are troubling us, when we stick with the process for some time, knowing that, okay, we might lose faith for some time that, is this working? But if you share with a friend that this is what I'm going through, if I share with a mentor that this is what I'm going through, and they share their experiences, they might share something like, well, I was getting troubled by this other quality, and I somehow stuck to the process, I did certain things, and now I feel like I'm not getting troubled by this as much as I did before. So hearing that inspires us to continue with the cleaning process. So here, all I'm trying to say is, it's best not to do this devotional process alone. And we try to do it with our friends, with the people that we have some faith on. We go back to the stage of faith. We had some faith, that's why we came, and we started doing sadhu sangha. So it's not the devotional services, the steps, it's not like we go through one step and we completely like we're over it and we go to the next step. And when we do sadhu sangha, okay, we're done with sadhu sangha, we only do bhajana kriya, like we only do our own devotional service. And then we go to anartha nivriti, that's all we are doing. We're just trying to make ourselves a better person. No, everything that's come before, we are doing it along with the stage of anartha nivriti. And it keeps happening as we go on to the highest devotional stages. So while we're going through anartha nivriti, what we do is we go back to our faith, we reflect what made me start this process. And if you have faith in certain devotees, okay, their qualities seem very like palatable. They have very nice relations with other people. And they speak very nicely. They're very soft spoken. They seem like they're chanting very nicely. They're very firmly situated. And they're doing their sadhana very nicely. So let me associate with them. I think the previous Prabhupada was saying that the remedy of cleaning all this dirt from the heart is associating with devotees. We read the 10 offenses every morning. Some of you like remember some of the offenses that we go through? What is the first offense? It's usually the hardest one to think of. How is it laid out in English? Propagating the holy name of the Lord. Okay. So Bhaktivinoda Thakur says that the remedy, why is that the first and the most important offense that we should try to avoid? Because the rest of the offenses, the remedy to that is to hang out with devotees. I keep saying hang out, but to associate with devotees, that's a much more deeper term. To associate with devotees who don't have those offenses. Like say we have a criticizing mentality, we try to find faults with others. But if you associate with someone who doesn't have those qualities, then those good qualities rub off on us. And so if you're not careful about the first offense, which is a remedy for every other offense, it means kind of like we have no hope of getting over those offenses. But if you're somehow avoiding the first offense and if you're not criticizing the devotee, no matter how bad we might think we are, there's always hope for us. Because the people who have gone through this process, they say that this process works. It may take 10 years, 20 years, 30 years, but this process works. And it only works because they stayed in the association of devotees, which is again the most crucial aspect of whole this practice of devotion service. In Chaitanya Charitamrita, it is said the sadhu sangha or association of devotees is the cause of bhakti. Like that's what gives us faith. Initially became like we got to know some devotees that gave us faith. And it's the cause of bhakti. It is the result of bhakti. Like what do we do when we get like purified, when we start doing devotional service? If you look at the lives of the acharyas that we had before us, all the Goswamis, what did they do? They hankered for more and more devotional service. Like Ramananda Rai, he's a top devotee of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. In his conversation with Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, he asked Ramananda Rai, what is the most like saddest thing? What is the most unfortunate thing that could happen? And what Ramananda Rai says is, losing the association of a devotee is the worst thing that could happen to anyone. It's the most sad thing that could happen to anyone. So Sadhu Sangha, association is the cause of bhakti, it's a result of bhakti, and it is bhakti itself. Like, how do you know if you're performing devotional service? If you're associating with devotees, that means you are performing devotional service. So three things. It is the cause of bhakti, it is a result of bhakti, and it is bhakti itself. So it's like we have such a simple thing in front of us. If we associate with devotees, what do we get from that? We get more association of devotees. And how do we do that? By continuing to associating with the devotees. Okay, so these are some of the thoughts I had. The purport and this verse. And this verse is, we recite this every day. That means that it has real value to our lives. It has real value to this process of devotional service. And it was actually like just preparing for this verse and speaking with some friends. I was speaking with Ram Govinda yesterday, and I also spoke to one of my cousins from India. Like maybe he's listening to today's class. But I've just been really inspired by him because he's a little older than me and we had always been very close. Like growing up, I always like wanted to like play with him, and we'd always like play together, like do a lot of activities together. But that was like mostly our association, like doing like games and like movies and stuff and going out to eat. But now he has also developed a real curiosity about this process of devotional service. And so he really like tries to check in with me every week. Like, do you want to read Gita today? Like, I hadn't been reading Gita even like regularly at all, but because he would be every Sunday morning, I would see a text. Oh, do you want to read today? Saturday morning, I would see a text. Do you want to read today? And I would think, okay, maybe we'll read 15, 20 minutes. But once I start reading with him and he has questions that every time he has a question that is really like making him ponder and affecting him, and he would ask that and we continue talking for like half an hour. So yesterday we discussed, like I said that I have to speak on this verse, so can we read this and discuss what your thoughts are on this? And so that's what we did. And then it was really like touching that then he shared like what had really been troubling him over the last like few months, what is troubling him right now. And he asked me, like, sometimes it seems like the devotional service practice is not working because I still get annoyed at things that I used to get annoyed before. Anyways, we had a discussion about how to get over that, but I just wanted to share that process of sharing with one another, that is where like I feel like I was really getting his association and we were associating with each other. Like we might have always like been around each other growing up, but this was the association that was taking place, like confidentially revealing like what is in our heart and how we are overcoming that, and that inspires the other devotee. So it was like a quick shout out to him and to keep on his spiritual practice. But yeah, please, if you have any thoughts, comments, suggestions, please share. Agree the Prabhu?
Thank you, Prabhu. Thank you very much. I've heard that between association with devotees and chanting the holy names, association is more important. All the chanting of holy names is the Yuga Dharma, but if we do that alone, we won't be able to do it for too long. And if you associate with devotees, it's just a matter, even if you're not chanting, it's just a matter of time, you'll start chanting. So those are the reasons why the sadhu sangha is even more important. And I wanted to reflect on, there's something you said that really made me think, I never thought about that before, in terms of the first offense to the holy name, the blasphemy of devotees. So we have the opposite of that, glorifying them. But I heard it's not to be happy to see a devotee. Even that is an offense.
Yeah.
And how that ties into the root cause of all offenses, of being inattentive.
If we're not attentive in our dealings with, we see a devotee, we are in our like own mind, we're not really thinking of.
Yeah. And I was thinking even extending that to just regular people, not being happy to see people as part and parcel of Krishna. That also would mean that I'm really not paying attention. And hence, that's the root cause of my own miserable existence. So I want to thank you for that.
Thank you. Yeah, I really appreciate that point. It makes us think that even when the people we are seeing at Krishna lunch, like you might not directly categorize them as devotees, they're potential devotees, but when we look at them and smile, it gives them an opportunity to see a devotee, like we are practicing devotees. It gives them an opportunity to see us and feel happy. And so when they do that, it gives them some benefit. And so that is such a wonderful service, just to look at someone and smile at them. What to speak of, the devotees are friends, but also the people we're serving Krishna lunch to.
It was just what you did, you triggered that I should meditate more on gratitude, because the root cause of all that inattention is lack of gratitude. And I heard there was a talk somebody gave entitled, "Everything is amazing, yet nobody's happy."
Just been grateful for it. Radhika had one, and then I'll come.
I have a question, actually. So I was wondering, this process of bhakti, to go through it, sometimes like Advaita Prabhu was saying, you can keep chanting for lifetimes and you may not get prema. but it can also happen really fast. Is it possible for like, do we have to have unmixed and unmotivated, I guess, devotional service to go through this process? Or if you're doing some bhakti but you have some other motivations, will you still go through like anartha nivritti and then go through the rest of the process and develop prema? How does that work?
Yeah, there's a verse in Chaitanya Charitamrita, Bahu janma kare yadi shravana kirtana tathapi na paye Krishna pade premadana. Like even after someone could do it, like just chant for millions of years, lifetimes, still one doesn't get like bhakti at the feet of like Krishna. So that is also like possibility. But like, thinking about your question, we have these different stages of devotional service. If one had to be like pure-hearted and like have a pure consciousness, you said, does one need to have that in order to go through this process? Then we wouldn't have these different stages. It would mean that you first purify and then you start doing devotional service. But that's not how it's laid out. It's like you start doing a little bit, then you see that you have so much like that is troubling your heart. And then you keep sticking with it. And what happens is it's not all completely gone. But then you slowly attain the stage of nishtha, which means that stage where you're no matter what, you know that I have so many bad qualities, but at least the little happiness that I feel from this process is much more than like what I would feel like anywhere else. Like there's also a verse that Krishna Das Abhimane Jayananda said. Anyways, it's a little that it just says that a drop of happiness, a drop of happiness that we get from the ocean of Krishna's like, devotional service is much greater than what one gets even after like merging with the Brahman, what to speak of doing material activities. So yeah, one does not have to be pure to go through this whole process of devotional service, but purity is something which comes as a byproduct, and that is not even the ultimate like goal. It just comes as a byproduct. So if you keep that as the sole desire that I want to be pure, I want to be pure, maybe it doesn't motivate us the exact way. And so again, I'd like to quote this point by Haldar Maharaj, that people leave the process of devotional service not because the qualities that disturbing them, but because they lose attachment to sadhu sangha, they lose attachment to a devotee. So so that seems like we can have that as the higher goal, that no matter what is troubling me, I want to be around devotees. If that is a primary goal somehow, and we keep good relations with the devotees, no matter what stage of life we go through, definitely we'll come through it and attain purity, which is just a byproduct.
That like we can't be completely pure to start the process. It doesn't make sense. But I meant like purity in the sense that I'm just doing this not for anything material. Like, is that?
That is also a sense of like being completely pure, like unmotivated devotional service.
Yeah, okay. I guess I had heard earlier, like if you do jnana mishra bhakti, which is like mixed with jnana, or karma mishra bhakti, maybe you wouldn't get that. But I guess my understanding is wrong too.
But still, it's like if you keep performing devotional service, maybe Advaita Prabhu Ram Gurudeva would like to add to this. If you keep performing devotional service with other intentions, like I want to get something out of it other than just serving Krishna, that is not the perfectional stage. And if we keep maintaining that attitude, yeah, we wouldn't get to perfection. But even that doing that is better than just doing karma or just cultivating jnana, because then we're not on the path anymore. Like being on the path is much more important. Even like little progress on the path is much more important than being somewhere else and moving at a much higher speed, getting somewhere else. Thank you. Gopi?
I have a few things I want to say. First, I want to respond to Radhika and just kind of give everyone a kind of assurance that even if you have other motivations, the good thing about being part of Lord Chaitanya and Srila Prabhupada's family, we're speaking about sadhu sangha, right? So you're going to be associating with people who are experiencing the real value of bhakti, and you'll see what they're experiencing. So maybe you have like really intense, misdirected motivations. Oh, I'm serving Krishna because I want to become a millionaire. And then you'll just see what others are experiencing when they have a more pure motivation. And it'll have an effect on you. You'll see, wow, this person is really experiencing some ecstasy, some bliss. Maybe I should see what this is all about. So that's the first thing I wanted to say is I don't think we have to worry too much about our motivations. We do. We should keep an eye on it, but just keep associating is what I'm saying, and then it'll rub off on us the right motivations. The other thing I wanted to say, Advaita touched on gratitude and how that's the key to avoiding offenses against devotees. And I think a good extra little bit of sadhana that we can all do is we can meditate on how our spiritual lives are fully 100% just made up of mercy of the devotees around us. And we should never think that we have strength. We don't have any strength, not even a little bit. And you can see that if you go for a weekend back to your family or whatever it might be. You'll realize real fast how everything you have is based on what the devotees around you are giving you. So that's probably the best remedy against offending the devotees. If you want to guard yourself against offending them, then just keep slapping yourself awake and reminding yourself what is reality. Reality is that it's just the devotees that are carrying me every single day, every single second. They're carrying me, and they are the source of my inspiration. And then the last thing I wanted to say is when we think about anartha nivritti and how long it is, like on Friday I was saying, it's like pedaling your bicycle uphill. It's tough, and I think the important thing is to keep us motivated in this project of cleaning this room. We should actually also endeavor to at least now and then perform some extra devotional service, do some special services where we will get special mercy that give us a glimpse of some ruchi. Even Prabhu was saying, even sometimes we experience some bhava. Krishna, out of mercy, can give us some glimpses. And it's important to chase those experiences in one sense, because that keeps us inspired to keep doing the, what feels like tedious work. Because anartha nivritti will just take a while for most of us. It might take decades. So it's important that we just keep going. You just have to, keep working during that stage. But it does have an effect. But in order to stay motivated, there's many things we can do. Bhaktivinoda Thakur speaks of, the special days, for example. Every Ekadashi, every appearance day, do something extra. Kartik's coming up. Prabhu is showing us the example. He's already excited.
He's already excited about it.
Or maybe you can do some special preaching services, I know that some of the devotees that came with us for our little Sankirtan trip, they felt apprehensive. They felt like, all right, I haven't really done this. Will I be able to survive? And then there was also struggles during the trip. There's a lot of traveling, a lot of austerities. But then you get some special mercy. So, yes, do the anartha nivritti, do the hard work, but endeavor every now and then to get glimpses so that I can keep pushing us forward.
Yeah, that is the wonderful thing about this process, that it's not just going to be like while we're going through anartha nivritti, it's going to be boring and drab and we have no happiness at all. Like if you're sticking with the process, that's what Krishna does. Like he always gives us little bits of gifts. The realizations that we are getting, these are actually gifts by Krishna. Like showing that he also appreciates us. He's seeing that we're also trying very hard. And so if we try to get some of the special mercy, the occasions that we can get something special, we do get some happiness out of it, which makes us feel like I want to keep doing this a little bit longer. I remember this story being shared by Krishna Kripa Prabhu, that he knew a devotee who was really fed up in the 80s, being in the temple and having to do Sankirtan every day, and you'd feel like, okay, this week I'm gonna leave. After Sunday feast, I'm gonna leave. And then he would have the Sunday feast, and I guess back then the halwa was really, really good, because it's still really good. But then he would feel like, maybe I can stay for a few more days. And then he would go for that week again, and he would feel like, this is not working. I'm gonna leave this week, but I'm just gonna have the Sunday feast and then leave. So then it just kept going on, and ultimately he got over that thought process that instead of a weekly basis, he actually decided to stay. So yeah, we have to all find something that really catches our attention, something that really makes us happy. That we might have services that we have to do, and there might be services that we like to do, and we cannot ignore the services that we have to do because they're sustaining us. Let's say serving Krishna lunch and serving all the plates of any of the dishes. It's not something we love to do, but that's what we have to do. But we also need to have something that we really like to do. I know there's people, there's devotees who really like to do kirtan, and they find breaks and go and sit and sing, play instruments, play mridanga, try to learn new instruments, or somehow they like to cook and they like sharing that prasadam with others. So if you find something that we somehow really like, that will make the process of staying in the ashram and everything that is causing us inconveniences, it will make us make it worth it to go through that. Final thoughts? Just about breakfast time.
I like what you said at the end about it's about you and your cousin. Thank you for sharing that. Because so you guys played together all throughout your childhood. Yeah, but what does it really mean to associate? It means a certain level of intensity, intimacy, and sharing. So I think that's just a good meditation, because we can be around devotees, but how much do we associate?
Exactly. I've heard this in Bahaldar Maharaj. He was sharing that association can be external and internal, but if the internal aspect is not there, when we are not around the devotees, if you're not thinking about them, or let's say if you're not around the devotees and we are thinking of them, then we are actually getting association of the devotees. That is internal association. And that when we have that, then we actually be around the devotees, then we get their external association too. But if you never want it internally, and if you're just around the devotees just because we have some other thing that we can get out of it, then it is not it is some sense of association is there, but it's not giving us the best that we could get, the supreme goal that we could get out of it. So yeah, we need to meditate on it, we need to reflect on it, and just be grateful and appreciative of the devotees that are around us. And I'd just like to end by saying this this one thing, that just this activity of giving a Bhagavatam class here is so enlivening, because it if I would just request that if any of you get a chance, please take it, because you start reading the verse, you feel like you're not getting too much out of it, then you just share with a friend and you just ask them what are your thoughts on it, and when they share something, that spurs something in your heart, and then you start having more realizations, and you see you're having so many things that are happening. You're reading Shastra, you're sharing with a friend, getting their association, and also you're revealing things that are in your heart. There's so many wonderful things that could happen, and you could deepen your friendship only if you take the responsibility of someday giving Bhagavatam class and not shying away from it. So I hope Shruti is happy that I said this. Okay. Okay, Granthara Srimad Bhagavatam ki, Srila Prabhupada ki, Gaur Premanande. Sharira Vidyajal Jarendriya Taheka Jive Fele Vishaya Sagare Krishna Bharadaya Moy Gori Hari Jiva Swan Krishna Nudina Sri Namrita Radha Krishna Premena Go Chaitanya Nitai Janima Srila Bhagavati Gaur Premanande Hari Hari Go Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Hare Hare. Baba Mahavishnu ki jai.